Hi, everyone, and thanks for watching this episode of Explorations from Home, where we'll be getting into the amazing places to visit down under with AAA member choice vacations. Guided touring is a wonderful way to travel, especially to a place as vast and as far as Australia and New Zealand. It makes sense to kind of go and do everything in one fell swoop, and these tour packages that they offer are the best way to do it. I'm James Cartmel. I had the pleasure of living in Australia for 2.5 years with my family. Got to explore a lot of great places all over Australia and New Zealand. And today I wanted to take you through some of my favorite experiences, some of my favorite places I visited there, and also talk about some of the great tour and policies that Member Choice Vacations has that make it easy, make it stress-free for everybody, while also having a really immersive and inclusive experience when you go. That's kind of like what sets them apart. Member Choice Vacation, they're positioned as this 4 to 4.5 star, I would say, guided tour experience. But what really differentiates them is the inclusivity and the way they immerse you in the people, the culture, the history of all the places that we get to visit. It's really, they have this belief that, guided travel is about connecting people with different people and destinations and cultures, and that experience, is a really important part of a fulfilling life. So they have tours all over the world, but Australia and New Zealand is certainly one of their specialties. A lot of their tours also include choice on tour. So, their member choice is trying to get away from this, I think, myth of, oh, you go on a tour and everything is a very rigid schedule and there's no opportunities for free time or to kind of do your own thing. It's very flexible with member choice vacations. So this choice on tour gives people the opportunity actually to choose from different included experiences. There's no extra money you'd have to pay. You can just choose what you want to do and how you want to spend your time, depending on your activity level or your interests, and kind of personalize, based on what you want to do. And then they're also really big on pacing. So, I think a lot of people think a guided tour is, you go to a place, you spend one night there, then you go to another place and you spend one night there, and you're always either, in and out or on a motor coach. And it's definitely not what this is. It's about getting off the coach, having plenty of free time, plenty of time in each place that we visit on the tour. So you get to enjoy it and you get to learn about it and appreciate it. That's what these experiences are all about. I also want to point out some of the ways Member Choice Vacations supported AAA members during the pandemic. First of all, whenever a tour was canceled, the members got to choose from moving the tour to a later date, price protected, getting a voucher for 105% of the money they've paid, or getting a full refund. Because Member Choice Vacations has this great philosophy that, they haven't earned, if the trip hasn't gone and they haven't earned their money, you don't keep it. They don't keep it. So they've refunded over 130 million to people that didn't want to travel and wanted their money back at that point. And that's gotten some great feedback. And it just kind of goes to show that even if we're talking about a place like the South Pacific, where we can't actually go right now, you can book with confidence for the future, knowing that there's not a lot of risk associated with that. You can also move your tour up to 60 days prior to the trip without any change fees. So very flexible. And they have this great protection plan I'll get into a little bit, but you can cancel for any reason up until 24 hours prior and get a full refund. So it's great to have that kind of peace of mind. We're also famous for their sedan service. So if you do a trip with Member Choice Vacations and you also purchase the transportation package that includes the airfare, you're going to be provided transfers to and from the airport from your home. And it's a great way to start in the tour, and people love it. It's a great service. And, especially when you're dealing with a 14-hour flight back, having somebody waiting for you to pick you home and get you home as fast as possible is a wonderful experience. Trust me. You can also personalize their trip. Like I mentioned, choice on tour. There will be a couple optional extras that may be an option for people. They like to build in a lot up front, so you're not really getting nickel and dime, but you can choose from pre or post nights or extensions or optional experiences on tour, and talk to your travel agent because all these things can be arranged right when you make a reservation to have it all packaged appropriately for you. And then finally make sure you ask them too about the travel protection plan. Like I said, full refund for the cost of the trip. The only thing that you wouldn't get returned to you if you decide to cancel is the cost of the travel protection plan itself. So just a great policy. No matter where you go, no matter what travel you're doing, you need to have some type of travel protection. And the agents are a great resource to break all the different options down for you. On all these member choice vacation tours too, AAA members will save $50 on every tour just for being a AAA member. And there's also a additional credit because these are AAA vacations tours, where you get a certain amount on an option that might not be included for everybody, but as a AAA member, you will have that additional on-tour credit. So make sure you ask your agent about that too and see what might work best for you on these trips. So Australia, New Zealand, like I said, it's got something for everybody. It is one of the best places to go and travel to. It's a flight and a half sometimes, but once you're there, you want to make the most of it. And Australia in particular is just such a beautiful country to travel to and enjoy. Most of the people that live in Australia and most of the trips that go there are going to focus on this boomerang coast. So from Adelaide in South Australia all the way around the coastline through Melbourne, Sydney, and then up to Queensland and in Brisbane. I'll start in Queensland. I think it's a beautiful state. There's so many different things. They have amazing beaches and surfing in the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast. You have further up, you have the rainforest region and of course the Great Barrier Reef. The Whitsundays is like tropical paradise. It's the southern part of the Great Barrier Reef and amazing resorts, but this has got so much great wildlife. So when you go to Queensland, you can visit a lot of zoos or nature preserves or just habitats that will care for koalas and all kinds of native species to Australia. So it's a real delight. You can go to some enclosures and pet koala or pet kangaroos and take pictures with them and take a selfie with a koala, and something everyone should do. It's also home to the Great Barrier Reef, which is one of the natural wonders of the world. And you have the experience on a lot of these trips to go to the Great Barrier Reef and snorkel and scuba dive and visit the visitor center and see these corals and an amazing animal species up close in person, which is something we should all try to do to appreciate this amazing habitat. Moving along, Melbourne is a really iconic city. You'll want to visit a lot of great restaurants in Melbourne. It's very European in style. It is a great place to do shopping and walk around the river and admire the beautiful parks and architecture. But really, I think it's known for its amazing food. That's what somebody from Melbourne would say about Melbourne. Great restaurants and great food and very focused on its cuisine. So a great place to maybe start and end any trip visiting Australia. I also am a big fan of visiting wineries and vineyards in the countryside. No better place in Australia to enjoy this than in South Australia. So outside of some of the areas around Adelaide, there's areas called the McLaren Vale and the Barossa Valley, which are some of the more famous ones. On a lot of tours, you'll get to visit and see places just like this with amazing views of the countryside, sitting under a nice gum tree, having beautiful food and wine. They're famous for the deep reds, like the Syrah is really good, and just all kinds of grapes and things that come from this area. No trip to Australia, in my opinion, is complete without visiting the Outback. You have to visit Uluru and do a walk around the rock itself. Many tours will have opportunities to take a camel ride or a hot air balloon up into the sky to see the rock, especially at sunset, which is a really iconic experience to kind of see the brilliant reds and all the amazing colors of the Australian Outback. And of course, learn about the Aboriginal people too, which, they settled this area for thousands of years, and you get to learn about their history and culture, which is fantastic. The best place to visit, in my opinion, in all of Australia is Sydney. It's the crown jewel. And the thing that makes Sydney special is the harbor. Taking a boat cruise or even a ferry ride around the Sydney harbor is just stunning. Especially if you happen to go in November, beautiful trees, it's their late spring and everything is in full bloom, and it's just stunning. It's not too hot yet, and a really nice time to visit. Or you can also go, a lot of people like to go in, maybe February, March, when it's the end of their summer season. You won't get quite the heat as January, and it's kind of like their early fall season, so it's starting to cool down, which is appreciated, especially in like Queensland and Sydney. But visiting that harbor, you'll visit the iconic Sydney Opera House and get to go inside and learn about the unique architecture. The harbor bridge too really is a thing to admire, and many people like to do the walk across the top and see the views. You can also just admire it from beneath on the cruise too. It's a great backdrop for a beautiful picture of yourself in Australia. Get that iconic view with the sun setting in the background. It's fantastic. So definitely get out in the water while you're in Sydney. And one other thing, when you have the time, you can visit Darling Harbour. But I want to point out, one of my favorite things to do there was do the Bondi to Coogee walk. So those are two beaches in Sydney that are really famous. There's lots of famous beaches in Sydney, but those are two of the more famous ones. And the walk, it's about an hour and a half walk from Bondi to Coogee, but you go on this beautiful stretch of coastline, and it's a really great treat for anybody visiting to see some of the local sites, the local beaches, and soak up the sun while you're there. So real quick, here's a nice video that kind of tells you about some of the amazing places in Australia.
You'll arrive here and someone will say, "G'day, mate," and you'll have the biggest adventure of your life. The penguins are adorable. How can you not fall in love with a little penguin?
They were so cute. It was just so exciting to see them waddle up and find their way to their burrows.
We then make our way to the Outback.
They're just inflating the balloons, and we're hoping to have a great flight soon.
We took a sunrise camel trip. It was probably the best views of Uluru that I've seen so far, and I love the camels.
We then fly to Cairns, where we travel to the Sky Rail. That ride is very enjoyable because the views are amazing.
We went up in the morning through the mist, so it had a very different feel, and then once we got to the top, the sun came out.
You can take an optional train ride from Kuranda back down to Cairns.
Taking the train down was a unique view of the gorge from the opposite side.
We visit the Great Barrier Reef.
Having the marine biologists escort us around was absolutely amazing.
We are walking with our tour guide Lee, and he's taking us through the rainforest here at the Mossman Gorge.
We have a guided tour of the Sydney Opera House.
The architecture was fascinating. The tour guide was very informative and entertaining.
I did the bridge climb this morning. It was beautiful up there.
It's something a person will remember forever. We finish up our sightseeing by going to the Featherdale Wildlife Park. Everybody loves to see the amazing bird and wildlife that you find only here in Australia. We take a cruise on Sydney Harbour. The views are amazing. We get to see the Sydney Opera House from a different angle. It's a big down under adventure.
So, that was great. And I think it kind of shows how amazing Australia is, but no trip to the South Pacific is complete without going to New Zealand. So many things about New Zealand that make it special. The South Island is known for the Otago region, and Canterbury, Marlborough, some fantastic wineries, mountains, rainforests, the entire southern part of that west coast of the South Island, New Zealand is really one rainforest, and it's the Fjords National Park, which you should definitely see when you go to New Zealand. The Northern Island is more geothermal. They have some big lakes like Lake Taupo. The far north is the Bay of Isles, has some beautiful beaches and islands, great for a boat ride. And then you also have a lot of Maori people that come from the North Island, and you get to learn about their history and culture, and see a haka dance, which is really amazing. One of my favorite parts is Queenstown. So this is one of the hubs of the South Island of New Zealand, and in the middle of the beautiful mountain and lake region all over the South Island. And just driving around is just stunning. Everywhere you look is a Kodak moment. It really is. And there's some great shopping, and you can cruise up on the lake and just enjoy so many great things in Queenstown. In Fjordland National Park, it's about a 4-hour drive, but the drive is honestly one of the highlights of the whole tour. We'll eventually arrive in Milford Sound. It's actually a fjord, but it is just an amazing experience. The mountains are stunning. They're all carved by these old glaciers that were there and that filter out into the Tasman Sea. And whether you're there on a sunny day like this or a rainy day, it's a highlight, because in the rain, you'll get these amazing waterfalls, hundreds of waterfalls cascading off Milford Sound, and seals swimming along the boat. And you're in the middle of a rainforest too, so you have just so much birds around you. It is almost like Eden. It is a beautiful environment, and really special. The Mount Cook region is also one of my favorites in New Zealand. This is where a lot of the people that climbed Everest, like Sir Edmund Hillary, came from. Exploring all Mount Cook with its beautiful glaciers and lakes is a real treat. Whether you're an outdoors activity, want to go hiking, or just enjoying the visitor center, it's gorgeous, and a real highlight for everybody visiting the South Pacific. And then finally, Auckland is a real treat too. Great capital city, like Melbourne, a lot of great restaurants, beautiful wine areas, and a real great place to be either you begin or end any tour to New Zealand. So lots of great things to do in the South Pacific. One great offer I want to tell everybody about that's going to be available for anybody that decides to book one of these tours until the end of June 2021 and travel between January 1st and April 30th, 2022, is this great extension to Fiji that it will be included for free for anybody that books in those given windows. 4 days of paradise, sitting on these beautiful resorts and beaches, pools, exploring the outer islands of Fiji and the beautiful people that call it home, and just soak up the sun and get a lot of well-deserved R&R. So a couple tours I want to tell you about. Australia's Outback to New Zealand's South Island. This is a 3-week tour that will give you a lot of the must-sees of both countries. We also have a small group tour, so a max of 24 people, which will allow you to get off the beaten path a little bit more. So the difference here is we'll go to Adelaide and see the wine country, and a little bit more in depth in the South Island, New Zealand, and on off the beaten path. And then the complete South Pacific is something that ask your agents about too. They will be able to show you how this tour really kind of gets you everywhere. You're going to go to Hobart, all the amazing places around Australia, and then you can see in depth the North and the South Island, New Zealand. So a real great treat for the almost 4 weeks that you'll get to be away in this magical part of the globe. Talk to your travel agent and see what tour and date will be best for you. And thanks so much for your time, and look forward to you traveling with Member Choice Vacations in the future.